Good morning you guys, it's Karen, and today I'm talking about this little beauty here. This is the Ordinary Concealer High Coverage Formula, and this is in 1.2N. Probably a little bit light for me. I have got it on today, but maybe just a tad, so I might get one another neutral when I got it in neutral. So this is £4.90, so super affordable, which is fantastic. Whoops. And the claims on this are that it is high coverage with a real skin finish, but that resists collecting in fine lines. They're kind of the bullet points of what the claims are. There's 36 colours available, so lots and lots of different colours, lots of different tones. So I'll tell you what I think about this, and then I will answer all of your questions, because I put a post on Instagram and Facebook asking you what specifically you wanted to know about this, and there were some really interesting questions that I would never have thought of answering, so it's a really good way of me doing that. I might do that again in the future. So I was actually at a point where I wasn't that bothered about buying concealers, because I felt like every one I bought, they were fairly good, but they did accentuate my lines. I think any amount of makeup does. I tried the Peter Thomas Roth eye serum, and it just, you know, you'll know from the video, it just didn't work. And I actually felt like when I watched videos and when I looked at photos, I looked better with the concealer on than I did with the Peter Thomas Roth tightening serum on. And I thought that these were great claims, but I was like, this is what I've been looking for, because you guys have heard me say before, I found concealers that don't sit in my lines as much, but they're not very high coverage. I found ones that are high coverage, but they sit too much in the lines. And so this was claiming a real skin finish with high coverage that doesn't sit in lines, so I thought brilliant. But I didn't have much faith in it, you know, because I just think, is that even possible in a concealer? It almost needs to be magic, you know. But the first time I used it, I was already amazed, you know. I was like, okay, this is good, because I can see that there is an amount of coverage, but I can also see that it's not too thick and gloopy. It's a nice thin concealer. I like things thin, you know. I like my, well, I say it's thin, it's not, it's going to drop off there, but it's not like a liquid, but it's not a thick cream. So when you put it on, I feel like it's easy to spread. Oh, it's not easy to get the top back on, apparently. It's easy to spread about, and it was easy to blend. That's what I noticed, and I wasn't blending it away. I could see that there was coverage, but it didn't seem to be accentuating my fine lines as much as other concealers have. I'm saying that because I just think having makeup in that area is going to accentuate your lines. Whether or not it sits in them or not is the big thing, I suppose, and this certainly wasn't doing that. You know, if I had a look close up, there wasn't, you couldn't see where the concealer was. I tried building it up as well. I used it with a little mini beauty blender. I have got a demo actually, I'll put that in just now. Okie dokie, so you only have to use a small amount of this, as I've probably already said. I'm using a little mini beauty blender to put it on, and it's actually very hard to apply on camera. I've done this a couple of times, and I can't see very close up. Oh, I think I put about the right amount on today. You can see that this is possibly a little bit light for me. There we go. I'm going to set it with powder, of course. Just do the other eye. I just think this is so easy to blend and looks much nicer than, you know, that Peter Thomas Roth stuff I did the review on. I think it looks, it doesn't take away my wrinkles obviously, but they don't look as pronounced as they did with that. So I am going to put some powder on this, and then that's me done. So applying it with that little beauty blender seems to be the best way, or even with fingers. I did put it on with fingers a couple of times. I've used this probably 6 or 7 times now. So I put it on a couple of times with my fingers and blended it out with the mini beauty blender. I have found that this lasts really well. I've been setting it with the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder. I do feel like you need to set it. It's not a tacky finish, it's just, not completely matte, so maybe you can get away with it. Maybe it's just a personal preference, but I feel like it looks better when set. So I'm setting it with the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder, which does, you know, add a bit of brightening as well. But with using that combination, and I did also use the e.l.f. Under Eye Brightening Powder before it ran out on this, it seems to last 4 or 5 hours before I can see any major differences. And even then, I'll do a video again today at about the 5-hour mark. Even then, you have to be really, really close, and you can see at that point that the fine lines are starting to distinguish between, you know, it's starting to settle. Whether or not it settles in the lines or out with the lines, I'm not sure, but it definitely starts to move them. But it's not something that happens for quite some hours. So I can tell you that this is my favourite concealer now. This is something that I'm enjoying, and I've used it enough that it isn't like, oh, I just liked it the first few times. I really, really enjoy it. I am going to buy other colours in it. And it has beaten now my Bare Minerals Serum Concealer, which was my kind of holy grail. And that's great because that one is not a drugstore price and this one is. How do they compare actually? I don't think anybody's asked that, but I know some of you might be interested. I think with the Bare Minerals one, it feels as if it's going to be more moisturising. It feels a bit more silky going on. This feels like it's going to give you more coverage. This probably does give you a little bit more coverage than the Bare Minerals one on first use. But other than that, they're fairly similar. But like I said, the serum one feels a bit different going on, but only ever so slightly. It's a bit more liquidy, and it's obviously got a doe foot. It's not a little squeezy tube like this. I think I would quite like this with a doe foot. I think that would be good. Okay, on to questions. The first question is, how will it be on dry skin? Will it settle into all the nooks and crannies? The funny thing is, I actually do have dry skin the last 2 days, and that's because of the Peter Thomas Roth eye serum. It's something that I had kind of suspected from that was happening. I could feel my eyes drying out as I was using it, but I forgot to mention it, and I didn't really notice it until the last couple of days. I was like, yep, it really has dried out my skin. Because of that sort of tightening effect, your skin feels completely parched throughout the day, and you can feel it sort of, you know, held tight, but it's obviously going without moisture throughout the whole day that you've got that on. And like I said, I could just feel when I was taking it off, I was like, is this me taking the stuff off, or is it leaving my under eye dry? And it was actually leaving my under eye dry. So I've been working on that, but this hasn't accentuated anything other than there was a tiny little dry patch here that yesterday I thought that was more noticeable, but there was no concealer on earth that would have covered that. It was an obvious dry patch. So I think if you've just got dry skin, as long as obviously you're hydrating under your eyes before putting your concealer on, I think you'll be fine. If you've got actually dry patches of skin, then, like I said, I don't think there's any concealer that would be okay on the top of it. So I would say it will be okay on dry skin. I did watch very briefly the Pampered Wolf because she often does similar reviews to me actually, and I wanted to see if there was any reviews up, and I was like, oh, she's done it. She's always very quick, and she was saying that she felt like it wasn't the best for dry skin. I think I'll try and remember and link the Pampered Wolf's video because she's very, very thorough, and she comes back and shows you and maybe covers points that I haven't. So it's worth watching both if you're undecided. The next question is coverage and suitability for mature skin, dry, fine lines, etc. I think I've pretty well covered that. The coverage is high coverage. You could probably put the tiniest amount on and get a sheer coverage, you know, if you had a damp little beauty blender and put a little bit on and sheared it out, but you only need to use a tiny amount. It's not like a pigment foundation, it's not that pigmented, but I was surprised at how little I needed to use to cover both eyes actually, because what I would do is I'd get enough out that I thought was to cover this eye, and I'd end up thinking, you know what, I can actually take some of that off and put that on this side. So really good coverage. I think it's good for mature skin. It's the best one that I've come across for mature skin, for fine lines and wrinkles. Mine is on its way. How emollient is it? Does it settle into lines? How is it for mature skin? So the same, I've answered the lines and the mature skin. It's not emollient. It doesn't feel emollient. I think if something was emollient, it would move. You know, it's not going to set. Even if you set it with a powder, it would kind of congeal. I don't think that would work. So it doesn't feel emollient at all, but it doesn't feel dry. Like, it doesn't feel like a thick cream that you're having to pull your skin around to blend in. You know, it moves about very easily and it sets nicely, and like I said, it doesn't feel dry under here at all. The next question is how long it wears and does it blend well? So like I said, I think I had it on for about 4 or 5 hours before I very close up could see that there was some sort of separation in it. So I'd say probably 4 to 5 hours, but 4 to 5 hours and you can see something if you're very close up. I would say it lasts all day on a normal day, you know, and somebody at a normal distance is not going to notice any difference in your concealer at all. So probably it lasts all day. It blends really well. That's something I like about it, because when I first got the little ball out and put it on there, I was like, oh no, there's a whole load of that. I hope I've got time to blend it, you know, because I said I used too much the first time, and I think there's nothing worse of putting something on and not having enough time to blend it would bother me. It being so thick that you were just moving it around or struggling to blend it in, you know, that would bother me as well. But this was just really easy to blend, and I am a klutz with makeup, I have to say, so if I can blend it in, anyone can. The next one is, I'm excited to hear your review. Do you think it would be good to cover spots? Funny enough, I've got a spot, can you see here? So let's see. It's going to be a very unattractive picture of me covering this spot. Never mind. Don't know what that spot's from. I think this probably would be. I've got a little brush here. This I have had for about 20 years and I don't even know who it's by, but this is what I use when I'm covering spots. So let's see. I think it would, because it sticks pretty well. Yeah. I'm just sort of dabbing that on. There you go. That is the spot covered. It's probably, you can see a little white bit because it's too light. This one is too light for the colour on my neck there. So to answer your question, yes, it covers spots. I thought it probably would because of it being so high coverage. Is it as thick and unflattering as the foundations? Does it sit in lines? Oh, I've talked about the lines. I totally agree that the foundations are, I can't remember if they were thick, but I remember that they were unflattering. I tried the serum foundation and the other one, whatever the other one is, and they didn't do anything for me. I thought they were terrible. I tried different colours and both formulas, and they just didn't look good on me at all. I didn't get on with them at all. So to me, that's maybe why I was thinking this wouldn't work, because I loved SCM. There's a lot of products of their skincare that I love, but certainly with the foundations, they didn't work for me. This, however, is nothing like that. Okay, so 3 questions on Facebook. The first one, how it works under eyes, spots, pigmentation, nose, etc. So the nose one was really interesting because that's not something I'd thought about. I've never put concealer on my nose. I just put foundation on my nose. The only place I used to put it is I used to use a concealer in the corners here where I've got sort of thread veins. So I did try it on my nose a couple of times and it's really good. And actually, you can see this morning, I was trying to sort of blend my foundation. The foundation I've got on is the Hourglass stick foundation, and I just noticed when I came through here I was like, oh, that's looking a bit patchy, and actually when I put this on it was less patchy than my foundation, and I remember thinking, oh, perhaps I should just use concealer on my nose instead of foundation and not bother. So in fact I suppose I could put some on just now, couldn't I, if I can find a blender. Give me a second. Let's put it on with a brush, shall we? I've got a brush here, it's a Zoeva one, I think. Oh no, rose golden. Oh yeah, it is the Weaver. 142. Oh, check that out. It's a concealer brush. I don't need too much. Like I said, you don't need much at all. So I'm just like dotting a little bit on the end. Let's see. Oh, I've already put too much on. Do you see what I mean? I'm terrible. So I'm just going to use my finger to try and blend some of that out. It just, to me, sort of seamlessly disappears, but you're left with coverage. I think that's blooming amazing. In the corners there, and that's the finish without setting it, because I'm jumping ahead a bit, but somebody did ask, do you need to set it with powder? I prefer to set things with powder, but like I could leave that and I think you'd agree it doesn't look too shiny at all. You know, I just like to set things. Pigmentation I haven't tried it on, but I think, where would there be, I was going to say you can see my freckles here, but that's my foundation really, isn't it? So yeah, I haven't tried it on pigmentation, so I've never specifically tried to cover up my freckles. Although saying that, I probably had freckles on my nose there. So you probably were able to tell how well it would cover pigmentation from that. I think it would cover it pretty well. Do you need to set it with powder? How does the shade compare to the foundation? That I can't tell you, because I don't have any of the foundation. It just didn't work for me, and it's a couple of years ago since I've tried it. From memory, I think I got the same colours from the foundation, and I think they were, you know, the right colours for me, if you like. I think I got 1.2N from memory in the foundations, and and it worked fine if it was a little bit light, which is what I'm saying about this one. So I think they're probably compare okay, but yeah, that's the only thing I'm not able to tell you because I don't use the foundations. But there's a massive shade range, and there should be something for everybody. Does it oxidize is the final question. Not that I've noticed at all. No, it stays bright all day. Even when I was using this is underneath the Secret Brightening Powder by Laura Mercier, so it does brighten it up a little bit. But even when I was using it under the e.l.f. setting powder, which is pretty translucent, it didn't change colour at all, which is really good because that's something really annoying. So no, I would say no, it does not oxidise. That's all of the questions that you guys had, and that's all I've got to tell you about it. A lot of things to talk about for such a tiny little tube, huh? But I'm confident that this is going to be my favourite concealer going forward, if I end up using concealer, because I still think, like I said, it looks better without concealer in terms of fine lines, but then now that I've got the dark circles and whatnot and redness, it looks better with concealer. So you just have to pick your poison, don't you, really? But I'm pretty confident that this is now my holy grail concealer, and I'm going to go for another colour as well. Let us know how you found it in the comments below, because I know some of you had ordered it and were waiting for yours to arrive, so let everybody know so that we've got the full spectrum of opinions. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, let me tell you what I'm wearing. I told you I've got the Hourglass foundation on. Do you know what, on my eyes, I'll list it in the comments because I'm actually going to talk about it in the next video because it's all new stuff, so I'll talk about it in there. On my cheeks I've got the Illamasqua blush in Nymph, and this I just put my Morphe lip gloss on. No, yeah, Morphe Madison Beer lip gloss in Venus. In Mercury, not Venus. I just made that up. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.